Hello, my AP Econ students, and welcome to your Unit 1 Review Canvas quiz. Now, I've got the questions up on my smartboard. They do go right along with the quiz, though. So, in other words, number 1 here is number 1 in the Canvas quiz, number 2, and so forth. What I would recommend you guys do, either one of two things. Either take the quiz first before you watch this video. Don't submit the quiz, though, until you watch the video and get all the right answers. Make sure you have them all. Or, the one I'd probably prefer is to have you guys look at question number 1, do it on your own first, see what you think the answer is, then watch that part of the first part of the video where I describe number 1 and give you the answer, then pause the video, do number 2 on your own, watch the video, make sure you got the right answer, get the explanation, all that kind of stuff. And so I think that'll be the best way to do it because it'll be fresh on your mind. If you want to do the whole thing first though, and then go back and watch the video through and make sure you get the answers. However you want to do it is up to you guys, but that's what I would recommend. I think that'd be the best way to do it. But I'm just going to go through 5 of these. Obviously, there's 25 questions here. 5 of them you're familiar with because these are the questions you've been doing with your group. Okay, the other 20 are going to be questions that other groups did, and so you will not be familiar with those. And so to give you a chance to kind of look through and see them. So anyway, let's talk about number 1. Number 1 is asking about the nation's unemployment rate. Okay, so here's a key formula, a good thing to know. I've written it down here. The unemployment rate is equal to the number of people unemployed. And remember, to be unemployed, you have to be in the labor force and actively looking for work, but don't have a job yet. Okay, anybody that's not in the labor force, anybody under 16, or anybody who does not want a job does not count. Okay, but it's the number of people who want a job, can't get one, and then divided by the total labor force. So, come up here, now it tells you the working age population, that's irrelevant. Okay, not everyone who's in the working age wants a job, so this means nothing to us. What we know is that 91 million people have a job, and then this breaks down the 3 different types of unemployment: structural, cyclical, and frictional. Bottom line is they're all unemployed. Okay, so our labor force consists of everyone who has a job, which is 91 million, plus all the people that don't have a job. So that's 3 million, plus 4 million, plus 2 million, add that all up. So 100 is our labor force. Okay, so 100 is the labor force. Now, using that formula I showed you a moment ago, the unemployment rate is the number of people who need a job, and that would be 9. Okay, 3 plus 4 plus 7, all these people that are unemployed. Doesn't matter why they're unemployed, just that they're unemployed. So there are 9 people unemployed. Divide that by 100, and that comes out to a 9% unemployment rate. So the answer to number 1 is D. All right, let's look at number 2. The official unemployment rate is not accurate. And we've talked about this before. I know it's been a while. Obviously, it's been since January. But the problem that you run into with the unemployment rate is something that we call, sometimes they call, I'm drawing a blank on the name, discouraged workers. There it is. So discouraged workers. These are people that would really like a job, but they have completely given up looking for work. Okay, so the best answer here is D. It does not include those people that are so discouraged they've just given up on life. Okay, but if the offer came along, they would gladly take a job. So technically they want a job, but they're really not actively looking, so they fall out of the labor force, and therefore they're not unemployed anymore. So that's always tricky. And again, there are going to be times in history where the unemployment rate falls, and the question is, why is the unemployment rate falling? Is it because people are actually getting jobs, or is it because people are just giving up and dropping out? And either of those would make the unemployment rate go down, so that can be a little bit tricky. All right, number 3. So what do we know? Nominal GDP goes down, but real GDP goes up. Now that's rare. Usually from one year to the next, nominal GDP goes up. Okay, that one year it's 15 trillion, the next year it's 16 trillion, the next year it's 17 trillion in nominal terms, right? Real maybe not so much, but in nominal terms. What would have to be happening for nominal GDP to go down, but real GDP to go up? Prices must have fallen. That's the only way to explain why that would happen, why you'd have a lower nominal, but in real terms, we're making more things. Prices must have fallen, and that would indicate a negative inflation rate. So the answer to number 3 is B. Okay, 3 is B. All right, let's look at number 4. Okay, you got the two things here, apples and bananas, and they're going to talk about nominal and real. So this is a good reminder of how to do this. Remember, nominal GDP, when you're given a chart like this, nominal GDP is that year's quantity times that year's prices. So let's look at year 2. Year 2's quantity times the prices. You've got 2 times 80, which is 160, and then 2 times 60, which is 120. So nominal GDP is going to be 280. Okay, so that's nominal. Now, real GDP is that year's quantity times base year prices. And they tell you that the base year, or the year 1, is the base year. So we're going to take year 2 quantities times base year prices. So here we have 80 times 1, which is 80 obviously. 60 times 2 is 120. 80 plus 120 is 200, and that is our real. Okay, so we know that nominal is 280, real is 200, and that looks like letter C to me. So number 4 is C. All right, let's look at number 5. This one's a little bit tricky the way they word it, but we're going to work through it. So you've got the CPI, which of course measures inflation. That's the market basket. So in a sense, the market basket, this basket of goods, cost $20 in 1929, cost $100 in 84. 84 is set to the base year, and 120 in 95. So here's the way you're looking at it. Okay, the question is something that cost $50 in 1929. What's that going to cost in 1995? Well, here's the way I look at this. So if you notice, the market basket in 1929 was $20. In 1995, it's $120. So the same basket of goods, in theory, the basket does change and is updated, but in theory, the same basket of goods is 6 times more expensive. Okay, that's the simplest way that I look at this, is the same basket of goods, 120 versus 20, so this is 6 times more expensive to buy something in 95 compared to 1929. So I'm just going to take my 50 and multiply it by that factor of 6, and that gets me to 300. So number 5 is E. Okay. All right, let's look at number 6. Okay, this is similar to what we did a moment ago. It's asking about the unemployment rate. So the population is 180, but it tells us that 80 are not in the labor force. So that means that our labor force is 100. And that formula, of course, are the number of people unemployed divided by the labor force, 6 divided by 100, and that comes out to 6%. So number 6 is C, 6%. All right, which of the following individuals is considered officially unemployed? Now, Chris, remember, he's given up looking for work. He's not unemployed because he's a discouraged worker. Kim is going to school full-time, does not want a job right now, not unemployed. Leslie's retired, she's not unemployed. Lee is working part-time. If you're working at least part-time, you're not unemployed, and that leaves us with Pat, who recently leaves a job to look for another job. She is frictionally unemployed. So number 7 is C. Number 8, in 2007, nominal GDP is 50 billion. The deflator is 200. What is real GDP? So remember our formula for all this. The deflator is equal to nominal, and remember, I always remember nominal numerator, nominal divided by real, and then times 100, okay? Now, you're going to see that, I'm going to give you this right away here, because you're going to see a couple other problems that show up like this. What did they give us here? They gave us nominal, which they said was 50 billion, okay? And they gave us the deflator, which is 200, and we're solving for real, which is our x, okay? Now, another way of looking at this formula, if you're solving for real, I'm going to write this, I'm going to extend the page and write it down here, but it's pretty simple. You can also say it this way: real is equal to your nominal divided by the deflator. Now, it maths out this way, okay? Again, if you don't believe me, you can do the same formula we did above and math it out, but basically to math it out, because there's a number of questions here, this is going to simplify things, where they give you nominal and they give you the deflator, and we're solving for real. So again, mathematically, it works out to the same thing, so this is what we're going to use. So basically, we're going to take 50 divided by 200, so using this formula down here, let me just show you on this. So what do we know? We're solving for x. We've got nominal is 50, the deflator is 200. 50 divided by 200, 0.25. Multiply by 100 to get it to a whole number. 0.25 times 100 is 25, and so number 8 should be D. All right, so number 8 is D, 25 billion. Okay, again, you just math that out. You can do that, or you can do it with the kind of nuanced formula that I gave you there at the bottom. All right, which of the following is included in the computation of GDP? All right, now we can quickly eliminate A, because transfer payments are not included. Used goods, not included. Self-work, not included. And so that gets us down to D and E. Now here's the problem. Remember, total value of business inventories can be misleading because you might have things left over from last year that you made last year but didn't sell and are now in your inventories this year. We don't want to include that. So it can't be the total value, but it would be additions to. If I make something this year that doesn't sell, that's going to get added to my business inventory, but I do want it, even though it doesn't sell, I want to include it because we made it this year, and that's what we're trying to figure out. All right, so here you've got the CPI. They're giving us the market basket in a sense, and so let's figure out what the market basket is. So in year one, you've got a good X, 2 times $2, so that's 4. And then 1 times $4, of course, is 4 as well. So we have 8 is our market basket in year one. In year two, 3 times 2 is 6, plus 2 times 4, which is 8, and that equals 14. Now, to figure out the CPI then, you're going to take this formula, year 2, divided by year 1, and then times 100. Okay, so we're going to math this out. And what are our numbers? 14 is year 2, divided by year 1, which is 8. This should equal 1.75. And then multiply that by 100 to get it to a whole number. And the answer to number 10 is D, 175. Okay, so we just did year 2 divided by year 1. Here's our years. Okay, and then math that out and then multiply by 100 to get the whole number. So number 10 is D. Number 11, the recent popularity of job search websites enable job seekers and potential employers. This is describing or is going to impact those that are frictionally unemployed. If you're frictionally unemployed, you're one of these people that are between jobs, you're looking for another job. If this can these job search websites can match up employers and employees a lot quicker, it means that there are going to be a lot fewer people that are frictionally unemployed, or they're going to be frictionally employed a lot less. Okay, so that's why the answer is C. Kind of a weird question, but that's how that would apply. All right, here we have another unemployment rate one. So what is the total population, working population? Those things are meaningless. These don't mean anything to us. They don't matter. The only thing that matters is the labor force. What is the labor force? All the people that have a job, and all the people that want a job. So 90 plus 10, so our labor force is 100. Of those 100, 10 of them do not have jobs. Ergo, the answer is C, 10%. Okay, so 10% of people do not have jobs. Again, don't get tripped up. They love to give you this kind of stuff to try to trip you up, and usually it's irrelevant. You're just looking for the number of people that have a job plus the number of people that want a job. That's your labor force. All right, number 13. Okay, so 2 ways of doing this. The simpler way from my money is to look at it like this, is to say that nominal GDP increased by 10% from 2013 to 2012 to 2013, okay, because it went from 100 to 110,000. So you saw a 10% increase, okay, from here to here. Now, let's look at our price index. It also increased by 10%. You went from 200 to 220. That's a 10% increase. And so if nominal increased by 10%, but the price index or inflation was 10%, that means we saw no change in real GDP. You could also use the formula that I showed you a moment ago and math it all out. In other words, you could take nominal GDP, which is 100K, divided by the price index, which is 200, and then times 100, and that should equal 50,000. And then you could do the second year, which is the same process, 110K, divided by 220, and then math that out, it should equal 50K. So real GDP is the same from one year to the next. Again, I know I did that quick. That's just using the formula nominal divided by real equals the deflator and that kind of stuff. So you can use that formula or just look at it the way I did, which is this went up by 10%, this went up by 10%, so it was kind of a wash. Real GDP does not change. So number 13 is E. Look at number 14. All right, so what do we know? 4 things that go into GDP. It's important to know these 4 things. You've got consumption, which is this guy right here. Okay, put a mark over there. You've got gross private domestic investment, which is the 3rd line right here. You've got government spending, which is government purchases. And then you've got net exports, which is exports minus imports. So we're going to do this one minus this one. Now, what did we not talk about? We haven't said anything about corporate taxes. That doesn't play. And we said nothing about individual income taxes. So it's this plus this plus this. Let's just add these up. So 175 plus 30 plus 40. And that should equal 245 if my math is right there, okay, hopefully. And then we've got to do net exports. Remember, net exports is exports minus imports. So 75 is our exports minus 100 in imports, and that equals negative 25. So in other words, we have to subtract 25 from this, and it should get us a number of 220. And is that one of our answers? Yes, it is. So number 14 is A. So again, the thing that could trip you up there is either trying to include some of these superfluous things that they put in there, don't do that, or forgetting, again, net exports, which is exports minus imports. Okay, so you got to subtract that out, and that's why we subtracted 25 billion from there. All right, so number 14 is A. Number 15, this is another CPI one, and talking about inflation. So let's calculate our CPI to start with. So here we've got 5 times 6, which is 30, 2 times 7, which is 14, and 3 times 12, which is 36. Add that up, and it should equal 80, if my math is correct. Okay, so the market basket in 93 is 80. Let's look at in 94. 5 times 5 is 25, 2 times 9 is 18, 3 times 19 should be 57, 3 times 20 is 60, minus 3, 57, yes. Add that all up, and it should equal 100, okay? So now we've got our 2 market baskets, and here's where we use our formula to figure out inflation. Remember, this is the same if they give you the deflator. It's the same if they give you the CPI. Year 2 minus year 1 divided by year 1. And then times 100. So putting these numbers in, 100 minus 80, okay, simplify that to 20, okay, divided by 80, okay, 20 divided by 80 is 0.25, okay, so factor that out, 0.25 times 100 is 25%, just to get it to that whole number, and it's an increase, obviously, because the market basket went up, so it had to be an increase, okay, or the way I would look at it, we went from 80 to 100. That's a 25% increase. Okay, it's a $20 increase. 20 is 25% of 80. So whichever one makes more sense. I know we've talked about that before. All right. Number 15 is E. Number 16. So this is the same chart that you saw a moment ago. They're asking a different thing though. Okay, so this is asking which of the following is correct. All right, so what do we know here? We found out earlier that the unemployment rate was 9%, okay? Now, the other ones are talking about discouraged workers, this and that. The best answer, number 16, though, is A. And the reason is, remember, the natural rate of unemployment is equal to structural plus frictional. Remember, cyclical is the kind we don't like. That's when the economy is sick. That's what we have a lot of right now going on. A lot of people are unemployed. Not because they're simply between jobs or because there's a mismatch, but because businesses have shut down and people are legitimately out of work. That's cyclical. We don't like that. But as far as the natural rate of unemployment is structural plus frictional, so 3 plus 2 is 5 million, and then 5 million is out of our labor force, which is 100, is 5%. Okay. So number 16 is A. Number 17, what best describes an economy at full employment? So kind of the same thing that we said just a moment ago. it's when there is only frictional or structural but not cyclical, so letter E is the best answer there. I accidentally put the same one for C and D, but that wasn't the answer anyway. So letter E is, as long as you have frictional, you could have structural as well, but not cyclical. That's important. All right, number 18, nominal GDP is 330, the deflator is 110, it's asking about real. So again, I'm gonna go back to my formula that I gave you a moment ago, which I did this, I mathed out to reflect this. So nominal, real is equal to nominal divided by the deflator, and then times 100. All right, so nominal is 330 divided by 110, which is 3. 3 times 100 should be letter C, 300 billion. So 18 is C. All right, same process as we did before. All right, here, where is it the largest? Okay, so the only real way of doing this is you have to math out kind of each of these and figure out real GDP. So again, what was that formula I just used? Nominal divided by the deflator, and then times 100, right? And that's going to equal real. So 14,000 divided by 70 and times 100, that should equal 20,000. Okay, 18 divided by, well, that's the base year anyway, so that's same as real. Okay, 22,000 divided by 220 should be, and then times 100 should be 10,000. Okay, 50,000 divided by 200 and then times 100 should be 25,000. And then 60,000 divided by 300 times 100 should be 20,000. So once you math that all out and you see the real GDP, so this is what we did. Okay, as you can see, the biggest one is 2010, which is letter D. So 19 is letter D. All right, number 20. This is a fun one. So what do we know for sure as far as inflation and as far as real wage is concerned? So the cost of the basket went from 10,000 to 12,000, so that's a 20% increase in inflation. Okay, wages, on the other hand, only increased 10%, went from 1,000 to 1,100 in weekly wages, so that's a 10% increase in wages. So people are 10% worse off than they were before. So we can eliminate D and E because D is saying they're 10% better off. Wage increased, a real wage increased 10%. No, it did not, it went down. E is saying a real wage rate decreased by 20%. No, it decreased by 10% because they did get a 10% raise. But best answer here, and we know inflation was 20%, so it can't be A. And so the best answer here is going to be C. Okay, and this is like we did before. If you do year 2, which is 12,000, okay, divided by year 1, which is 10,000, and that equals 1.2, and then multiply it by 100. Okay, and that was the formula we did in one of the first questions, and we come out to 120 for our CPI in 2013. So letter C, number 20, letter C. 21, the unemployment rate is calculated as, again, the number of people not working but who want a job divided by the number of people in the labor force. So it's kind of a definition thing, but letter D is the best answer there. And again, we've seen numbers with that. And number 22. All right, so the automobiles manufactured in 2006, sold in 2007. Now remember, we want to include it the year it was made. Doesn't matter when it was bought. So in 2006, it should be calculated. In 2007, it should not be calculated. So that's going to mean that letter C is our answer for number 22, because in 2006, the car was made, so that's going to increase the GDP. It should not have an effect on 2007's GDP. It'll get calculated out. Okay, so that's why we're at C for number 22. Number 23, country's nominal GDP is 1,000 in year 1 and 2,000 in year 2. It's telling us that year 1 is the base year. Real GDP in year 2 is 1,000. Well, remember, if year 1 is the base year, this is real GDP in year 1. Okay, real GDP in year 2, they're telling us, is 1,000. So we made the same number of things. Why then Did nominal GDP go up to 2000? Well, prices must have doubled. Okay, again, real GDP is the same both years. It's 1,000. We made the same things. The only thing that could have explained it going up or doubling is that prices doubled. So that's B. So the number 23 is B. Number 24, the CPI increases from 200 to 240 in a 1-year period. So this is the year 2 minus year 1. So 240 minus 200 divided by 200 and then times 100. Okay, so math that out. You get 40 divided by 200, which is 0.2. It should be, and then times 100. And so number 24 should be 20%. Or I would just look at it as prices went up by 40. 40 is 20% of 200, whichever one makes the most sense. So 24 is B. And last one, you've seen the business cycle before. We've never seen one quite with this line that they're calling the potential line. Think of the potential line as the same as LRAS. What does LRAS measure? Full employment. So anytime we're on the potential line, that's the equivalent of saying we are at LRAS, meaning we are at full employment. Okay, so that's why the letter is E, or the answer is E, number 25. And of course, as we know, there's a lot of times we're not at full employment. We're either beyond full employment or less than full employment in expansion or recession, and that's where we get to the peaks and the expansions and the recessions and all that kind of stuff. But think of the potential line as the LRAS, and when we're on that line, we are at full employment because LRAS measures full employment. Okay, so number 25 is E. All right, there you go. If something in there didn't make sense, as always, shoot me an email or a text or something. Let me know. I'll be glad to help you out. But hopefully that gets you all the answers, and we'll see what we do going forward. So behave yourselves. Again, make good decisions, all that kind of stuff. Hopefully y'all are staying healthy and happy. And until next time, enjoy.